Hey, good Saturday morning, YouTube. Hugmeister's Garage and Workshop. Going to do a little video on some improvements we made in the wood boiler heat system on a couple ends. I had a little problem a couple weeks ago when it got real cold. I had a upper and lower hose going my EGR 250, and I was down with the heater was down. I was running on my pellet stove for a while. So I had to drain my lines, which are here, going down to my garage. Well, when I did that, when they emerged from the ground outside the garage in an insulated box and go into the garage, there was water trapped in there. And that wasn't any good. It did freeze. It didn't freeze anything. But I decided to make a few improvements. And what I did was I had a spare PEX that came up here from the garage, and I've got an air line from the garage. It comes up here now. It usually has like 100 pounds on it, but what I did is I added some blowout fittings with some speed or quick chucks on them, so whenever I want to, if that ever happens again and I've got to evacuate that line to the garage, I can just turn the water off, isolate it, and put air on these, and that'll blow the supply line, and it'll blow the return line out to the garage. And it'll also blow out my water line to the garage. So all three of those lines down there will be empty, and I don't got to worry about cracking any fittings, because like I said, I got lucky. Live and learn. I didn't sit on it. I got right on it and did this, but it ended up being nice having this air supply all the way from the garage up here in case I ever need it, but ended up that's what I'm going to use it for. The other thing I did was, since this is a wood boiler system and you constantly got to keep the water running, the circulator pump, it's a little bit tougher because I got a manifold system with baseboard, and I always got I didn't want my pump deadheading against when nothing was calling for heat, so I used to just crack this valve. Well, what I did is I added this main loop bypass relay. So this loop is always hot, all the way from one end of the boiler, all the way down to here, all the way to the garage if needed. And basically what I did is I just wired it into a relay with these end switches. So if any zone in the system, including the garage, goes off, or says it doesn't need heat, pardon me, this will open this relay, or zone valve, and it'll keep the loop circulating, so I'm not deadheading my pump. And it works really nice so far. It keeps this loop warmer back here, so there's less lag coming on. And then, like I say, if any one of those loops isn't calling for heat, it will open that valve up, and it's just a bypass is what it is. It just keeps this loop active, so it's either open or closed, and I don't have to leave this cracked. And actually, with it being that way, I have better pressure through the zones, because I run small pumps up there. I run 8 gallons a minute, and it works good with that. And they're those little Grundfos Alpha 1 stainless pumps. But I'll show you the other end here in a second. We made a few improvements. Okay, we're back in the supply end on the other end of the house where the water comes in from the boiler. And I had one of those filter systems that went here, and you couldn't keep the thing from leaking. It seems like you're constantly putting O-rings in it, and I decided to get rid of it. Finally it cracked trying to get it off, so I ended up just replacing that and just putting it's going to be just like a sediment trap, basically. I mean, I never really had to clean that screen anyway, and I've got I drained the bottom of my double tanks out on the wood boiler every year anyway, and the water always runs clean. But this way, it acts like a little bit of a sediment trap, and I could just drain some water off, see what I got in there. The other thing with this system, somebody asked me, how do you deal with the real cold water coming back from the garage sometimes, because it sits for a while, because I only got it set on 40 degrees. Well, what's nice about this is every time I bring it back, it has to run by this return leg that goes through my hot water, domestic hot water exchanger. So I've basically got, it's basically a mixing valve. So that boiler never gets, you know, like a 50, 60 degree shock. It's always mixed with hot water going back. So that's how we ended up with that. And let me see what else. So we got our temperature sensor in that goes upstairs. So I can read all my temperatures or what the boiler is. That transmits to a reading up above the thermostats. And there's our double check valve where I can fill water from inside the house. And that actually works good because I can look out this window and watch my vent pipe up there on top. And I just turn this on till I see a little bit of water squirt out. I know it's topped off. But there you go, folks. Have a good one.